Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a topic that's, well, a complete game changer for anyone making videos. We're not just talking about making videos, we're talking about engineering them. We're going to break down a powerful system designed to control viewer attention from the very first second to the absolute last.
So let's start with this idea. You've probably heard it a million times, right? In a world of short attention spans, you have to keep things short. Brevity is king. But what if that's not the whole story? What if it's actually an illusion, one that's blinding us to a far more powerful truth? The real secret isn't just about being short, it's about making your video impossible to turn off.
So what is this secret? Well, today we're unpacking a systematic process called retention engineering. And no, this isn't about flashy editing or chasing viral trends. It is a deep, structural framework designed to turn a viewer's passive scrolling into active, lean-forward anticipation. It's really about taking back control of the viewing experience.
All right, so here's our roadmap for today. We'll kick things off with the problem itself, the retention paradox. Then we'll look at how the algorithm's demand for watch time just completely changed the game. From there, we'll deconstruct the tension engine at the heart of this system, get into the psychology that makes it so darn effective, and then wrap up with a practical guide to engineering your own videos.
Okay, let's dive into section 1, the retention paradox. Before we can build a solution, we really have to get our heads around the problem that we're all up against, what you could call a crisis of impatience.
Look, the modern digital world has completely rewired our brains. It's created this environment of infinite choice, where the next video, the next dopamine hit, is just a single swipe away. And this has led to something called high-velocity bounce, which is just a fancy way of saying that viewers make snap judgments and are gone in seconds if they aren't immediately hooked.
And this crisis led to a pretty logical conclusion for most people. Okay, if people are impatient, I'll just make my video shorter. And there's some truth in that. But it's an incomplete strategy. Just making something shorter doesn't automatically make it engaging. This focus on brevity alone can blind us to what truly keeps a human mind locked onto a screen.
Which brings us right to section 2, the algorithm's demand. See, this wasn't just a creative problem, it became a technical one. The platforms themselves, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, they changed the rules of the game, and they forced all of us to adapt or basically become invisible.
In the early days of online video, success was simple. Just get the click. But the platforms got smart. They realized that clicks and views were kind of vanity metrics. They didn't really signal quality. So they radically shifted their priorities, and they elevated one metric above all others, a metric that completely changed the game.
And here's that shift in a nutshell. The game changed from chasing views to chasing something much more meaningful, watch time, or what the industry calls average view duration. It was no longer enough to just grab someone's initial interest. Now you had to earn and sustain their engagement for as long as possible. The platform started to massively reward videos that could hold an audience.
So here's the crucial takeaway from that. To win in this new world, strategists needed a real system. Not just a list of tips and tricks, but a repeatable framework to actively manage the viewer's mental state, their cognitive engagement, from one second to the next. They needed a weapon to fight that high-velocity bounce.
Which brings us to the engine itself. How do you systematically command attention? Well, it's not magic, it's a mechanism. It's a repeating cycle designed specifically to create, manage, and then finally resolve psychological tension in the viewer's mind.
This engine runs on a really simple but incredibly powerful three-part cycle. First, the pattern interrupt, to grab attention. Second, the Zeigarnik Loop, to build tension. And third, resolution management, where you carefully protect that tension until the very end. Let's break down each piece.
I want you to picture your viewer. They're probably scrolling, right? They're in this kind of trance-like state. Your very first job is to break that trance. You have to shatter their thought pattern and anchor their attention immediately and forcefully onto your message.
And you do this with a hook, but not just any hook. It has to be a massive, unique promise that clearly states the value and the stakes. By putting this powerful promise right up front, you're leveraging a psychological principle called the primacy effect, where our brains give much more weight to the information we hear first.
And you have an incredibly short window for this. We're talking about just 15 seconds. That's all you get to establish the hook, make your promise, and anchor the viewer to the final payoff. If you fail in those first 15 seconds, they're gone, forever.
Okay, so you've grabbed their attention. Now you have to hold it. And this is where you build the main body of your video around a powerful, almost manipulative psychological principle.
This is the heart of the tension engine.
It's based on something called the Zeigarnik effect. And what this proves is that the human mind absolutely craves closure. We hate open loops, unanswered questions, unfinished stories. They create this little mental itch, a nagging feeling that our brains are just hardwired to resolve. And we can use that to our advantage.
So as you see here, the whole technique is to structure your script with these little internal cliffhangers. You hint at the answer, you promise the solution, but you deliberately withhold it. This generates this continuous, unresolved mental pressure that basically forces the viewer to keep watching, just to scratch that itch.
Now, this final phase of the cycle, it's all about discipline. It's about ruthlessly protecting the precious psychological tension that you've worked so hard to build. Any leak in this tension and the viewer is gonna bounce.
And this means a few things. First, you eliminate all low-value time. No long intros, no rambling. Second, you use rapid tactical pattern interrupts, a visual change, a sound effect, every 3 to 5 seconds to constantly reset the brain's tendency to wander. And most importantly, you do not give away the final answer until the very end.
So, let's talk about the psychology of sticking. Why does this engine have such a powerful, almost hypnotic hold on our attention? Well, it's not just some creative gimmick, it's a direct exploitation of our own cognitive biases.
This entire framework works because it's not fighting against human nature, it's using it. This system creates this very specific mental state where the path of least resistance is to simply keep watching.
It all boils down to a really simple psychological conflict. On one side, you have the tiny bit of effort it takes to keep watching, but on the other side, you have this significant mental discomfort of an unresolved question, that pain of uncertainty we created with the open loop. The whole system is designed to make that pain feel way worse than the effort.
And this chart just lays it out perfectly. Retention engineering works by artificially inflating the mental cost of quitting. The desire to close that loop, to finally get the answer, it becomes so strong that it just overrides our natural impatience and our tendency to get distracted. So it's a brilliant 1-2 punch. The Zeigarnik effect creates that nagging pain of an open loop, and then the constant pattern interrupts act like a focusing agent, continually resetting the viewer's attention and preventing their mind from wandering off. Okay, enough theory. Let's make this really practical. How do you translate these psychological insights into a framework you can use on your very next video? Let's talk about engineering. Mastering this whole system really just comes down to the disciplined execution of 3 core principles. If you can get these 3 things right, I promise you will see a dramatic shift in your retention. Your first priority, above all else, is to front-load the value and introduce that central tension right away. I mean it, don't waste a single second on logos or fancy intros or hey guys, get straight to the promise.
And remember, that clock is ticking. You have to make a unique, compelling promise and introduce the core obstacle or question within that critical opening window. You have to anchor them to the finale right from the start.
Next, you have to be intentional. You can't just present information in a straight line. You have to deliberately structure your script to create and sustain curiosity. This means you're planning your reveals and strategically withholding key information. You're an architect now.
And a truly high-retention video isn't built on just one big question. It should be structured with at least 3 to 5 of these smaller, internal cliffhangers or unresolved loops. Each one acts like another little hook, pulling the viewer deeper and deeper into your content.
And finally, you have to adopt a new mindset. From now on, you treat your viewers' attention as your most precious, non-renewable resource. Your job as a writer and an editor is to eliminate every single frame and every single word that does not serve to build or maintain tension. Be ruthless.
And this requires a relentless pace. Your editing has to maintain a significant visual or auditory change every 3 to 5 seconds. Now, this isn't about being chaotic or flashy for no reason. It is a tactical weapon used to consistently defeat attention decay and force the brand to stay focused.
So, after all that, after deconstructing the problem, the algorithm, the engine, the psychology, what's the one single thing you should take away from all this? What is the core insight that changes everything?
This is it. This is the essential insight you have to embrace. You're not just a content creator anymore. You are an attention engineer. Your video is a machine, and its sole purpose is to guide a human mind through a carefully constructed experience, from a state of curiosity to a state of deep satisfaction. It really is that simple. When you boil it all down, it's the cold, hard logic of the algorithm combined with a profound, deeply human need for closure. You are creating an equation in the viewer's mind where staying is the only logical and emotionally satisfying choice.
And ultimately, this is why retention engineering is so incredibly powerful. By creating this structural tension, you're not forcing a message on someone. You're creating a powerful pull, an intense desire to see the conclusion. And this ensures your entire message is actually seen, heard, and absorbed.
So, the system is now laid bare. You understand the mechanics, you understand the psychology. The only question that remains is, how will you apply this psychological weapon to your own work? How will you structure your next story to make it utterly impossible to turn off?